So this is December 12th, 2014, and it's Judy Ridner and Nick Timmerman, Justin Whitney, and we are talking to Nancy Bardwell at the MSU Library on the MSU campus. So Nancy, what we thought we would do is just start with maybe some basic background on your history, and then we can talk about Starkville and its history. So can you tell us when you were born and where you were born and a little bit about your family history?
Okay, I was born in Sturgis, Mississippi, August 29th, 1953. My parents, Charlie and Rosa Bush. My mother was a McKinney, and she came from Akron, Mississippi, back up in that area. Then we lived there from birth. I was born in the house that I was born in the house that I lived in until I was 18. And my dad died like 2 years before that, and my mother remarried, and we moved to Starksville, to out on New Light Road by Bell Chapel Church. And when she remarried, I was a senior in high school. And so, thus began my era at Starksville High.
So you would have been, this would have been 63, in the late 60s? When was it that you moved, about what year did you move to Starkville?
I was 17, so I came the first year of the integration, the complete integration, because they had integrated somewhat with 5 students. And then the next year, the whole student body. But I was originally from Maven. I went to school in Maven because I lived in Sturgis. Because my school that I was going to in Sturgis burned when I was in the 3rd grade. And it was called Liberty Hill. And it burned. And so we were bused from Sturgis to Maven because, at the time the schools was not integrated. So they sent us to Maven. And then when my mother remarried, then we moved to Starksville. So I did my senior year at Starkville High School.
So that probably would have been about 1970, maybe 1971?
That was when I graduated, 1971.
All right. And so, so you grew up kind of, Maven and Sturgis, pretty rural places, and probably even more rural then. What was it like living in Sturgis when you were a kid? What are your memories of it?
It was a long time before we had lights, and we had the outhouse bathroom, and we had to go to the well and get the water, and Mom washed on the rubberboard, and we killed hogs, and we did we farmed. Mom was a good gardener, and then we had cotton and corn, and I was always a tomboy. I never did really like the house stuff. I liked my daddy. I was a daddy's girl, and so I liked to plow the cotton, and I would go with him and bale hay and throw the hay on the truck and this kind of thing. I never did really. Now my sister Linda, she always stayed at the house with Mama, so she got the sewing and all that. I didn't really get that. I was outside.
And now, did you just have one sibling? Is it just you and your sister, or did you have
me
other?
and my sister. And
So,
she was by a previous marriage, but we both had the same mother.
But you had a fairly small family.
I had a small family. Just me, my mom, and my dad, and my sister.
Well, that's neat. That's neat. And so, what was it like to come here to Starkville then? When you were, was there a big change in your life? Did you see a big change, or did you perceive a big change in your life?
Well, I was familiar with Starkville because, like maybe once or twice a month, we always came to Starkville. My mother was adamant about getting her hair done, and so our beautician was in Starkville. So we would pick a Saturday, and come to Starkville, and we would, stay uptown, as we called it, until you know, we'd get up there about 10 and we wouldn't go home for 4 or 5 o'clock because Mama would get her hair done, and then we'd do a little shopping.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes she would take me down to this restaurant. What was the name of it? I think it was like Joiner's Restaurant or something, buy a hamburger, you know, this kind of thing. So, you know, I was familiar with Starksville, but I hadn't lived outside of Sturgis. Sturgis is very small.
Yeah, I mean, it's small, it's still a small place.
Yeah, you know,
small.
it's still small. So my childhood memories are all in Sturgis.
Yeah.
All in Sturgis.
So can you talk to us a little bit about the Sturgis community, and what was your, like, were your parents, were they long-term Sturgis people? Were they long-term Mississippians?
They always, I mean, both of them were born and raised in Mississippi. Like I said, my mom was from like up in the Ackerman area. They call it Reform.
Okay.
And she was born and raised up there, and she has, back in Mississippi. Amen. I think it was 7 girls and 1 brother.
Wow.
She was reared in a big family, you know, and she always worked. And my dad, on the other hand, came from like Brookville, Crawford, that area. And his mother passed in childbirth with him. And so his aunt raised him. So the people that he was raised up with as sisters and brothers really wasn't his sisters and brothers, but at the time, you know, they lived in a house together, so, you know, they were treated all
Right.
as sisters and
They
brothers.
they felt as if they were family.
They felt as though, because, I mean, she had him from newborn,
Uh-huh.
you know, and so she raised him up from newborn or whatever. His dad lived, when he was living, but Mama Annie kept him and raised him. And so he always called her his mother.
And was most of your family, like your parents, were they from mostly rural, like, did they mostly farm like your parents did? Was that a family, was that family
Yeah,
tradition?
mostly everybody farmed.
And it sounds like the farm that you grew up on was a real mix of things, like you had livestock and you had cotton, and it sounded, I think you mentioned corn too.
We had corn. I mean, you know, we milk cows. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we put cows, I mean, you know, milk on the side of the road, you know, for the milk
Yeah.
truck to come through and get and take. You know, we did all that, you know. So I have a real country background, you know. I mean, you know, we did the hen eggs, you know, hatching of the baby chicks, all of that, you know, going out and picking the blackberries in the summertime and the plums and the pears off the trees, and, you know, just, you know, and just, I mean, even when the moon was out at night, you know, we'd get out and play ball and stuff, you know, like when the moon is real bright.
Yeah.
You know, the neighborhood children we'd play ball at night and roll ties up and down the road. So,
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, absolutely.
so it was fun to us. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, because we didn't know anything different, because it was fun, and it was a long time before we got television. It was a long time before we got telephone. And when we got telephone, we was on the party line.
Right.
And
right,
so
right, yep, right.
they probably don't even know nothing about the party
Yeah.
line, right?
Oh, well, I've heard plenty about it. I don't know if you all have. Yeah.
Okay, but we was on the party line, you
Yeah.
know, so that was always exciting. We could eardrop on everybody's conversation.
Right, find out what's going on.
That was fun. That was fun. But I mean, you know, real simple, you know, real, you know, church going, you know, we went to church every Sunday. You know, you were in church every Sunday. You went to Sunday school, and you had, well, at that time, the pastors, you know, they had to travel, so, you know, we had what we call preaching, like one Sunday a month, but we had Sunday school every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so what church did you attend?
Mount Airy Missionary Baptist Church, Sturgis, Mississippi. And it's still there
Oh, that's neat.
on Craig Spring Road.
That's neat.
Mhm.
So, growing up, like you mentioned that the schools that you had gone to before you moved to town, to here, to Starkville, were all segregated. What was your social world like as a kid? Was it really a highly, was Sturgis a highly segregated place? Did you socialize and play with only other African American kids? Was there a sort of sense of give and take in your neighborhood? What
Only
do you have?
African American kids. I mean, you know, when I was growing up, I mean, the only white children that I knowed were the ones where my mom worked, and that was Mildred Quinn and Jenny O'Bannon. Do you know Jenny
No, I
O'Bannon?
don't. No, I don't. And I don't know what Mildred Quinn is or who she is.
Well, anyway, she had a store in Bradwell.
Ah, okay.
And so my mom worked at at her house. I mean, you know, Mildred had the store and then the house, and so Mom was her housekeeper.
Okay.
And so she had 3 girls: Judy, Jan, and Jeannie. And so those were about the only 3 real white kids that I know by name. You know, and we didn't associate with the white children because it was like you don't associate with them.
Yeah.
They don't associate with y'all. Y'all stay y'all's.
Yep.
You know, you stay your course.
Yeah.
You know, you over here, they over there, or vice versa. You know, so no, I did not associate with white children.
And I assume that the schools you went to in like Mabin, you said that they were segregated schools, and so you went to school in a world with other African Americans.
Yeah, other African Americans.
Yeah.
Not until I moved to Starksville High in that very first year, and which was my senior year in high school.
Yeah. So what was that like going from, you know, small town little Sturgis, and it sounds like you had a lot of fun. You worked hard, it sounds like, when you were growing up, but you had a lot of fun.
I did.
And then you come to town, and all of a sudden you're thrown into this.
It was very
integrated
different.
high
It was
school.
very different. It was very, very different. Because even when you got thrown into the situation, it was their world and your world. You know, because, I mean, even though you went to school together and you sat in the same classrooms, and, you know, the teachers, they really did try to be cordial and try to do the best they can, you know, with it. It was still, you know, like the black kids would sit on this side and the white would sit on this side. You know, it was still a divide within the classroom. You know, and it was obvious that we didn't want to be there, and it was obvious that they didn't want us there. So, and since they didn't want us there, we didn't want to be there. So, you know, you make the best of it, but that's just the way it was.
Yeah. And when you say you didn't want to be there, I mean, what was your sort of, well, where did you want to be? Like, what did you see as your idea?
I mean, you know, just like in any situation, you feel better with your own, you know. And so African Americans consider their own as their own, so you feel better with your own. I mean, you know, and so it was like, this is the first year, so, you know, we got, everybody was walking on eggshells because we know that we were being watched. And it was like, you know, nobody says anything out of the way, and, you know, nobody felt free to talk unless you was in your own little circle. And if you were outside of your circle, then, you know, it was very cordial. You know, hey, how are you today? You know, what was the assignment? Did you get the assignment? You know, and other than that, you know, that was it. Now I did, later on, say maybe about the second semester, I formed some friendships. One of the ladies that I became a real good friend with was Pittman, that girl name. She taught out here in McCoo. I can't think of her first name right now, but anyway, she moved away. And then that was Candy Hood, and she was real nice. And you know, those were people that I still keep in contact with, even up until today.
That's great.
You know, like every Christmas, I'm looking for my letter from the Pittman child, because she writes me a book once a year.
Right.
She sit down and she types me like a 6-page letter.
Oh my God.
As to what she has been doing all the year.
Right.
And so, you know, I keep in contact with her, and I was keeping in contact with the girl Candy, because her parents were still living here in town, but I think her daddy died, and her mom too. You might know her well. I don't know how long you been on campus.
This is my 4th year, so not very
Okay,
long at all.
so you didn't know Chief Hood.
No, I didn't, no.
Okay,
The
her
name doesn't
dad
ring
was
a bell.
chief of police out here for a while.
Oh, okay, nope, name doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, so her dad worked out here on campus, so me and her stayed friends. And I mean, you know, and you learn the people that were in your class, you know, and even now, you know, like when you see them, you speak, you know, but it's nothing.
Yeah, it's not like a close relationship,
Mm-mm.
it's just, it's formal, and as you said, it's cordial.
And
but
then
it's
too,
informal.
see, you know, we felt like we were, they broke us up. They broke up our little, you know, little cliques and groups and things, you know, because see, before we were totally integrated, like I said, they sent supposedly 5 of the smartest children over to Stockton High to see could they hang, you know, with the academics and stuff, you know, and that was Bill Robinson, Jerry Self, John Youngs, Leslie Evans, Linda Robinson, and who else? Vera Robinson. Those were the ones that they sent over.
It's sort of like a test, kind of.
To see could they maneuver in and do the academics, because see, they were supposedly be the elite smart ones within us, you know, whatever.
Right.
So
Which is insulting.
yeah, but I mean, you know, that's the way it was. You know, they had to test the water, so those was the one that they sent over and test the water with. So.
And obviously that went okay, because then they went through with fully, and you were in the first fully integrated.
I was in the first fully integrated to Stark High. So see, I had a double whammy, because see, I had moved from Sturgis.
Yes, that's what I was going
And then
Yeah.
went fully into
Yep.
the integrated school.
Yeah. So how did you feel, how do you remember feeling about all that? I mean, I would think that that's a shock. And as you said, you're moving on 2 levels. You know, you're moving like you physically moved from one place to another, but then you're also moving into a very different school environment.
It was, I mean, you know, you just, I don't know, I mean, you know, you don't really know how you feel. I mean, you know it's something that you got to do. And also, you know, you just get up every day and you do it. And you go in and you see your guidance counselor, and they tell you where you need to go, you know, for your classes, and you just kind of blend in, you know. Now, I did have a real sweet math teacher. Of course, I didn't know the hill of beans about nothing she was teaching me, but I had a real sweet math teacher, and that was Miss Methel Hodges. And she was really nice. She was really, really nice. She really was. And then, I mean, actually, I really did try to get all the classes with all the black teachers, because I know them. So.
And so they did that was one of my questions I was going to ask you about. How did they handle, I know that there was some controversy over how they would deal with the black teachers who were already in the district. And so clearly they integrated the teachers too into the high school. So
They
there were black
integrated the
teachers.
teachers into the high school. Now, how they did it, I don't know. But I do know that they did do that. They did. And they integrated them also into the coaching staff, you know, with the football teams and stuff like that, you know. They did integrate them.
Now, did you, the man I spoke to yesterday, he grew up outside of Meridian, and he said that one of the things that he said was very hard about integration was that the first year, he's probably about the same age, he was also senior in high school when they integrated, and he said they canceled all of the social events that year. They were so afraid of integration that there was no prom, there was no senior play, there was no senior trip. Did that happen here? No, it didn't.
We had a prom.
You did. Okay.
The blacks had a prom.
Okay.
We rented a building.
Okay.
And we had a prom. I mean, you know, but it was no school.
It wasn't school like
It wasn't school held, you know, whatever. You know, but we did have a prom. We did have a prom, but it wasn't a school prom.
Okay.
It was a self-prom, I guess you could call it that. You know,
right. Independent prom.
Independent prom. We had an independent prom. And I think they had an independent prom too.
So there wasn't a sense of as I said, he described very much like we're going to shut down all the social activities, and that was
Well, they really did. I mean, except for football. I mean, that was the year that Staub High did real good in football. They had the Alderman, Henry Vaughn.
Okay.
He played football.
I didn't know that.
And he was on that first team.
Okay.
Coach Cleveland Hudson, he just retired from the school system. He was one of the first ones that played football over there. And then he went on and came back and was coach over there for a long time. So, and then those are some names right there, just by the way, that you might want to talk to. Henry Vaughn.
Okay.
He might talk to you. He's one of the stars for Alderman.
Yep, I know who he is.
And Cleveland Hudson,
Okay.
he was a football coach. And I don't have any contact information, but I
But he
know
would
that
be
he
a name.
is. I know he is here in town. And he was
Okay.
one of the teachers. Who else in town that you might want to talk to? Just off the top of my head. I mean, because they were, he and Cleveland were in the athletic part of it, so they might know
Right.
something different.
Yeah, that would be a little different, perhaps.
Than what and they were in the first class too.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, and I do know who Henry Vaughn is.
They were in the first class too.
Do you have any sense of how many, like what the racial makeup was of the school after integration in terms of, do you have any sense of, was it about 50-50, African American and white? Were African Americans in a distinct minority? Were you all in a majority? Do you have any sense of how, in terms of like what you noticed about, did you feel like you were pretty much, it was one for one?
I don't think it was a distinct, like we were like half and half, because some of the people sent their children to the county schools. And see, and back in the day, you could do that without really getting into a lot of trouble. So they sent their children to the county schools.
Okay.
And so, but the ones that just had to send their children to the city school did that.
Okay.
But you could send them to the county back then, and they wouldn't, like check up on you, like the address, and you have to have something physical that really put you.
They didn't care.
Well, yeah. I mean, whatever. It wasn't a big deal like it is now. They wasn't, concerned about the numbers and, the tax dollars and this kind of thing, or whatever. So, I mean, I'm sure they were concerned, but back in the day, they just didn't really try to prove it.
Yeah. Right.
You could really get away with it. A lot more than you can now. Got on being taped.
Well, we'll only put excerpts on the website. So, what did your parents think about all the stuff that was happening in Starkville? Like you going to the first, being among that class of the first integrated students of high school. Did your parents have anything to say about it, or did they?
They just told me, "Nancy, go to school and get your lesson." That's all they said. And that's what I did. I went to school and got my lesson. They said, "Nancy, go to school and get your lesson." And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir." So that's what I mean, they really didn't, they really didn't do one way or another. It was just go home, go to school, get your lesson. So that's what I did. I went to school and got my lesson.
Makes sense.
And, I mean, they didn't really pressure me one way or another.
That's good.
I had good parents.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I really
Sounds
did.
like
I had my biological daddy was good, and then I was blessed to have a jewel for a stepdaddy. I really was. My stepdaddy was awesome.
Well, that's great. So, how did your, thinking maybe a little less about the school stuff and more about your family life, how did your family change when you moved from Sturgis to here? How did your life change? Thinking about the big picture when you moved from Sturgis
when I moved from Sturgis to Starkville. I guess I've always been independent, but I guess I became a little bit more independent. I learned how to drive, and Papa would let me drive his truck, whatever. He had that truck with the shift on the collar.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to drive his truck, and so he would let me go to the movies, at night. I did a lot of stuff by myself. I've always been a loner type person. I never have, liked the real crowd. And so he would let me go to the movies and stuff by myself. And my stepdaddy was a truck farmer. He was one of the kinds that in the summertime sell the watermelons and the peas and the vegetables and this kind of thing. That was his livelihood. In the winter he sold firewood, in the summer he sold vegetables, and that's how he made his living. And it wasn't that much different. I mean, I got a job at the National Guard Armory through the summer, and then I became pregnant, and I had graduated high school, and I moved to Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, did you really?
I did, and I stayed up there for, my oldest son was born in Baltimore, so I went up there like in September and came back the following year at Easter.
So that would have been like mid-70s maybe? Something like
My
that?
oldest son was born in 1972.
Okay, so early mid-70s.
Early mid-70s.
Yeah.
So I have a 43-year-old son coming up in
wow.
January.
Wow. Wow. So that would have been a big move to Baltimore.
It was nice though. My brother-in-law, I went with my sister and my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was a student at Johns Hopkins University. And so they stayed in the student housing. And so I stayed in the student housing with them. And it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah, I've been up to their campus once, but it seems like quite nice. And Baltimore is a nice.
It's
city.
nice at night.
Yeah.
They go downtown with the pink lights. It's really nice at night. It's really beautiful at night. And then while I was up there, of course, you have to go to D.C.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to Pennsylvania.
I was going to say Philadelphia's close by.
Yeah, you have to go to Philadelphia, and then you have to go to the Boardwalk, which Atlantic City, and you have to do all these things. So I was able to do all of those things. I was, excited about doing all those things.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it was fun because my brother-in-law was bound and determined that I did it. And so, but I was happy to get back to Mississippi. I really can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the city life. I really don't. I can't stand it. I mean, you hear cars. You do that now here, but not as bad. But you hear cars and ambulance and all this stuff all night long, just all night. And then the day is so busy and everybody is so close together and it's no openness. Everybody's just right there up on you, and then nobody know nobody, and and then you got to drive 2 hours to get to somebody's house, and it's just right around the corner, but it's not just right around the corner.
Right. Right.
It's 45 minutes down the street,
Yeah, I understand.
I didn't like it.
Especially if you're from Sturgis. You were used to in the country.
And my sister, on the other hand, I tell her all the time that if it was one thing that I was envious of her is her travel. My sister has she's been to Africa, she's been to Egypt, she's been to China. She's did cruise after cruise. She and her husband, they travel all the time. And I told her, I said, you need to go to Australia and Switzerland, and you'd be just about done made it.
Right. Fill in the missing pieces.
That's what she needs to do, because she has really been an extensive traveler. Just all the time, they just go places.
Yeah.
And so, but myself, I've been, out of Starksville, I drive to Georgia, where my son and his family is. I'll drive there, and like I said, I stayed in Baltimore, and I stayed in Joliet, Illinois, but I always wanted to come back home.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
I always wanted to come back home.
And do you now say Starkville's really your home, or do you still see Sturgis as your home, or are you just thinking Mississippi in general?
I really see Sturgis as my home. I really do. I really do.
And do you live there now? Do you live in town now?
I live right out. I stay in the community called Sunset. It's right past Walmart.
Oh, okay.
Walmart, Shell service station, up the hill,
Uh-huh.
hang a left across the railroad track.
Okay. Okay.
And that's where I live.
So you're on the outskirts. You're in.
I'm still on the
Yeah,
outskirts.
you're on the outskirts of town.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm not in town. I'm still on the outskirts. And I mean, I like that. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
that's what it sounds like.
I like the peace and quiet. I really do.
I can understand that.
You know, even though we live in the community with neighbors, you know, whatever, but I still like the peace and quiet. I don't like the clutter.
Yeah.
I don't like being
Yeah.
clustered up.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I can understand. I think we sympathize. So, so thinking about your history, so you went here through high school, then went up to Baltimore for a couple of years, then you came back. Then where'd you go after that? Came back to Starkville.
Okay,
then.
when I came back to Starkville, I came back to my mom's house. And at that time I had a baby.
Yep.
And so her thing was, you got a baby, so you're going to have to work and take care of it.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, okay. And at the time, you know, I got on welfare. But welfare had a program that paid for classes out of East Mississippi. So I went out to East Mississippi to the war clerk class. And that was like a 18-month or a year class or something like that. And when I left the class, I got a job at Octavia County Hospital.
Oh, that's great.
And I worked at Octavia County Hospital in the emergency room, on the floor, and wherever they need me for 22 years.
Wow.
So Octavia County Hospital was where I, you know, ended up job-wise after I got back. So I worked there, and then I was just like, I've been here for 22 years, and some got to give. You know, I had went out to East Mississippi and finished up my associate in between all that.
Right.
And I was like, you know, I got to do something different. And so I left Octavia County Hospital after 22 years, went to Starkville Public School System. I was a teacher's assistant in the SPED class. And then during that time, I was able to drive school bus. So I was a teacher's assistant, and then I was a school bus driver. And in the middle of all that, I decided that I wanted to come back to school. And so I came out here, to see what I needed to do to get in school. So I did all that preparation, and then I got back in school. And after getting back in school, I had to let the teacher's assistant job go, but I kept the bus driving job. And so I drove bus and got a work-study job here in the library. So I went
While
to
you were
school.
taking class, and you took classes here.
So I went to school, did work-study, and drove school bus, and got my undergrad.
Oh, no. That's busy.
Plus I had I done married somewhere in here.
A minor detail, right?
I done married somewhere in here, and then I have little Bobby, which is my other son.
Okay.
And
And
so
another child.
somewhere all in there, is marriage and all this kind of good stuff. And I did all that. Then after I finished my bachelor's, they had an opening downstairs in cereals. So I applied for the job, and I got it. And I really think I got it because I had been a work-study student here.
Oh, yeah. You had,
And so,
people knew you.
and I had my foot in the door already,
Yeah.
so they closed it up for me.
Well, that's good.
And
And so
then
how long ago was that? You started working at the library?
12 years. It probably be 12 years this year because
Okay.
I got a 10-year award last year, but the award is always a year behind your year.
Yeah, right.
So I got a 10-year award
Yeah.
this year. This year I got the 10-year award for being here. So it's probably 11, 12 years. And so in the meantime of all that, I've been married for 29 years. I have a 27-year-old son, and one that's supposedly to be 43 in January, and I have 3 grandchildren.
Oh,
And my mother's deceased. My stepfather's deceased, and my dad is deceased. And my mother lived up in her 90s.
so you can expect a long life.
Well, I have 2 living aunts now. Both of them, one is 93 and the other one is 94.
Well,
2 living aunts right now. You know.
So you need a good retirement fund.
You're right about it. You're right about it. I need to work a long time.
You need to write one or the other.
One or the other. Need to continue to work. But
So
I mean,
2
you know.
kids, and you have a husband, and you have your parent. Not that your parents are gone, but you clearly have relatives that are still going.
I still have relatives that are still going. That's right. So I mean, you know, I've had a good life. I mean, I have nothing to really complain about. I mean, you know, we always can go with, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Yeah.
or if I had this, I'd do this, or if I had that, I'd do that. But I mean, and even right now in dealing, you know, like when I worked at the hospital, I mean, you know, the race thing was not really a big thing. I mean, you know, you always feel some kind of tension, and don't ask me why that tension is there,
Yeah.
but it's always there. I mean, you know, so I worked at the hospital for 22 years, and, you know, all of my supervisors were white, did not have a black supervisor. All the nurses that was in the emergency room for years were white, and eventually we got, say, 1 black nurse, and that was just like later on, you know, or whatever, because you didn't really see many black nurses. You know, they were all white nurses, and I mean, I got along good with them.
Yeah.
You know, and even here.
Yeah.
You know, and even in the public school system. I mean, you know, the children that rode my bus, they were white, which was every once in a while and far between, because my bus route went through Brookfield Garden. Oh, off Carver Street, west side,
Boy, I'm blanking.
82,
Okay.
Max Meat Market.
Oh, okay. Yep. I know where you're.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
gotcha.
You know, hang
Yep.
on, right, go down
Yep.
through there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's Brookfield Garden, and that's predominantly African American.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever. So my route was really to Brookfield Garden, so I never hardly really had white children on my bus unless I drove for a special occasion, or every once in a moon had to drop somebody off somewhere, but not often.
Yeah.
Not often.
Now, was that typical that African American drivers would be assigned to African American neighborhoods, or do you think
No.
that was just happenstance?
It was just happenstance, because it's mostly all African American drivers. You can pick your white bus drivers probably on one hand.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because most all drivers are African American. Don't, I mean, you know, now you got some coaches and stuff that drive, you know, they would drive, you know, to make up that extra money or whatever. But most all the bus drivers, unless they have changed. But when I was driving, I mean, you know, we had like and probably about four white drivers.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
Yeah, that's
You know, and we had like about 4 or 5 women, and they were African Americans too.
Yeah.
You know, but most of the bus drivers were black.
So when you think back over your life in Starkville, since you've been here since about 1970, what do you notice has changed, and what do you see that stayed the same? Especially, you know, speaking from the perspective of being an African American woman.
Now,
You've been here long, you know, you've been here a while.
You're right, I'm 61. The changes that I have noticed is that most of the black wants to better themselves. And when the black feel like they are bettering themselves, you know, with the houses and the cars and they sending the kids to schools and this kind of thing, you know, they want to be compared to the whites. But then by the same tokens, when the blacks start bettering themselves, the white do a uptake.
Uh-huh.
They better themselves. You know, because if you look at it and you look at the neighborhoods, say like Green Oaks.
Mhm.
Now,
Okay,
Green Oaks was a predominantly white neighborhood. But when the houses became available for the blacks to afford them, the whites moved out and started them another neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, okay, you know, it's like a rabbit chasing a dog chasing
Right,
a
I
rabbit.
understand. Yep.
You know, you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? You know,
yeah.
by the time we get here,
Yeah.
then they're over there.
Yeah, the bar keeps changing.
The bar
So
keeps
you kind
changing.
of pursue you get to the bar and then all of a sudden the bar's moved up.
And the bars
Or it's-
moved
Or
up.
it's shifted or something.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so I have noticed that change.
Yeah.
You know, and even in the working environments, if you go in and you see the working environment, the peoples that are behind the desk, that is really sitting in front of the computers, or the Caucasian race, and then the people that are out doing the manual work, the manual labor, you know, it's African Americans.
Yes.
And that's just about in every establishment. I mean, now you got a few that's a little bit different, but overall, that's the picture.
And does that make you angry? How does that make you feel? Do you just kind of accept that? What do you do with it?
You accept it because, I mean, you know, if you end up with all this in you, you will become a mean, evil person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so you have to accept you for who you are. You know, and then you have to be happy with yourself. You know, I learned that real quick. You have to be happy with you and the person you are. And that's what you have to go on. Because I can't be you. You know, even, I mean, you know, I can't be you.
Right.
So since I can't be you, I have to be happy with Nancy.
Yeah.
And make Nancy happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you know, and that's one reason why that I am pursuing, you know, my degrees and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because even at 60, I still can do better.
Yeah.
You know, even at 60, I still can do better.
Yeah.
Because see, when I finally got my college degree, I never thought in a million years I would be a college graduate.
Uh-huh.
And I sure enough never thought that I would be at Mississippi State University working on a PhD.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you were going to.
You know, I never thought that.
Well, that's great.
You know, never even had a clue.
So what do you think inspired you to do that? Was it just that sense of bettering yourself, and so you just kind of do it one step at a time?
It's bettering myself.
Yeah.
You know, and never selling for the status quo. Because you can easily sell it. You know, you can easily become complacent. You can easily just get to the point to say, as I'm just going to go to work and come home.
Yeah.
Clean my house, go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
go to church, come to work, and go home.
Yeah.
You can easily get to that state. But you have to want to better yourself for you.
Right.
You know. Now, one of the main reasons why I did it was because I wanted to be one of the first in my family, as far as my mother's children's, to get this far. And so far, I'm the only one with a master's degree.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
You
It's
know,
a big thing to be the first one in the family.
it's really,
Yeah.
you know, because, I mean, like, Aunt Inez had like 8 or 9 children.
Yeah.
And Eloise had like 6 or 7. And SB got 5.
Yeah.
You know, and Eva May got 2, and Mackie ain't got none.
Right.
You know, Mama got 2.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm the only one
Yeah.
that have come this far
Yeah.
with a formal education.
Yeah.
And I really, you know, consider that to be a proud thing,
Oh yeah, I would too.
you know, for my
Yeah.
mama's descendants,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
And then I also better myself for my children and my grandchildren. But the lesson that I want them to learn is that you have to do what you need to do for yourself. Can't nobody give it to you. And if you want to do better, I mean, it takes time. It's not done overnight, and you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, you do.
You have to sacrifice, and your sacrifices sometimes become great, but you still have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just walk out the door and expect. And I always tell them that the 5-bedroom house with the 2 baths in the 2-car garage with the 2 cars sitting in the garage with the 3.5 children, and the half child is the dog.
Right.
You know, you just can't expect that to happen overnight.
Right.
And you know, and I'm scared that the young generation, that's what they think is supposed to happen overnight.
Right.
But I've been working since I was like 12 years old, formally. When I was little, young, my mama made me go rake leaves. Miss Helen would come get me on Saturdays. I raked leaves all day.
Right.
Just stop for a lunch break. Rake leaves all day. Then when I got old enough to where as I was ironing to her satisfaction, I started taking in clothes to iron. Shirts, stuff like this. You know, on weekends. I made my money.
Right.
I made my money because she was bound and determined that I was not going to be a lazy child and that I was going to work. You know, she taught me that. And right now I'm holding down 2 jobs and going to school. I am active in my church, you know, active in my church district, you know, but, you know, she taught me that you have to do all them things if you want to improve.
Yeah, so she instilled, it sounds like she instilled a really strong work ethic in you.
Oh, yes, she instilled that work ethic. She didn't play about that.
Yeah. So it also strikes me, too, that you've broken barriers. You're also of the generation for women who has kind of broken a lot of barriers in the sense that when you were coming out and starting to work, that was also a time where women were really starting to get higher education in a big way and coming out into the workforce in a big way. You know, especially, you know, what I would say is the white collar workforce, like working in the library, like you're doing now. Do you have any sense of being a part of that pioneer generation of the especially in the 70s, the women's movement was going. I mean, civil rights movement had gone before, but women's rights movement is going. Do you have any sense of being a part of that?
Well, not necessarily. But now, when Octavia County Hospital opened in January, I started working that April. They opened in January. I started work in April of the same year that they opened. And it was me, myself, Julia, and Marshall. They only had like 3 or 4, you know, like ward clerks that were black that worked there. And so, and you know, the other blacks was like nurses' aides, and they had like the guys were orderlies, and they were mostly black. But I did not see myself as breaking barriers because at that time it was getting a little bit more, you know, blacks were getting decent jobs, you know, as we call decent jobs. And that blacks were doing a whole lot more versus the service type positions, you know, like cooking in the restaurants and washing the dishes and, you know, like in
domestic service.
Yes, domestic service type thing.
Yeah.
You know, we were kind of pushing away from that, you know, or whatever. But now I do see a difference in the children. You know, I really do. I do see a difference in the children being that mommy's at work and the children are kind of just going astray. You know, I do.
So how did you balance all that? Because obviously your husband must have been supportive of you working, and clearly you balanced it with your son and your husband. How did you do it? You just do it.
I mean, it's no magic to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if Lil Bobby got a game, I got to be at the game. You know, and then see my oldest son. You know, like my children are 14 years apart.
Right.
And so right when I got married, Fred was almost getting ready to graduate.
Right.
So, and then when he graduated, he went to Hines Community College in Jackson.
Yeah.
He went to the Utica campus.
Okay.
And so he wasn't there. So, and then I had little Bobby. And so, you know, whatever little Bobby wanted to do, you know, we just did it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, I mean, you know, you just do it. You know, you don't think about balancing any of it. You know, you don't really think about balancing it. But see, I kept on with school and study, and then I guess I had really kind of gave up the bus there sometime in between there, somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in there I gave up the bus and just really took this job on.
And did the school in this, basically.
Did the school in this.
So, do you all have some questions you want to throw in? See them listening.
When you moved to Starkville, did you participate in the protest, or did you have an idea of the protest at the high in terms of integrating the schools?
I didn't participate
You
in
didn't
the protest.
Okay.
I didn't participate in any marches that was done.
Do you know anybody that did?
Yeah.
Did you know of their experiences?
Well, my husband went to jail.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of the ones that went to jail, you know, or whatever, back when they was marching, or whatever. He went to the Octavia County Jail. And then, you know, I was in the era of the Freedom Riders too now, the Freedom Riders. But, you know, I was more in the Sturgis area then. And at the time, the Freedom Riders, they didn't do anything but came through and bought us some clothes and stuff, and I don't know why that was so significant, but that's what they did. I mean, you know, they really didn't do anything as far as, you know, like helping in Sturgis, because, I mean, Sturgis was a real, I mean, you know, it was, you know, almost like the blacks went to town at night and the whites went to town in the daytime, that kind of thing.
It was,
you know.
sounds really divided.
Yeah, it was really divided, you know. It was really divided.
So,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
did you, what did your husband, what gave him the idea to actually go out and join the protest? Did you guys actually sit down and talk about it?
Oh, this was before we married.
This is before you're married?
This was way
Okay,
before we
this is
married.
before married. Okay.
My husband is also, oh, he's 14 years old now. He's 70, husband is 73. So he's older than I am. So this happened in Starksville, you know, like downtown. He lived in Starksville and I was living in Sturgis. But when we met, we both were living in Starksville. But this happened, you know, like way before me. This happened before me. But I just know it happened because, you know, we've talked about it, you know, and he told me, you know, that he went to jail doing the marching or whatever. He got up in jail. So I was like, well, okay.
All right.
Dear.
Right.
Do you know if that was his first protest? If that was his first?
You know, my husband, no.
No? So, okay.
My husband is very, I'm gentle and he's hard. He has a very rigid personality. My husband is very rigid in his personality, you know, and he is gonna tell you how he feel, point blank, and you gonna know, point blank, and he's gonna be upfront, point blank. I, on the other hand, chooses sometimes not to speak and just let it ride.
Yeah, I understand.
But now my husband, you gonna know.
Yeah.
And he gonna bring your attention to it. Whatever it is, you gonna know. Point blank.
Nothing wrong with
Say what?
that. Nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes. We clash on that a lot.
Oh, I understand.
That's one of our big things.
So, kind of following up on Justin's question, what sense did you have of the larger civil rights movement happening as you were growing up? like you talked about the Freedom Riders coming through, but did you have any sense of, there's a,
I mean, I got a lot of my information from television. I mean, like the marching with Martin Luther King, the Alabama thing with Martin Luther King, the bombing of the girls in the church. I got a lot of that from television. And back in the day, we weren't allowed to really sit down and talk to our parents about stuff like this, because those was like grown folks conversation. And the kids were in the back room, and if they even had a hint that you were listening or whatever, that's none of your business, so you don't need to know nothing about that. So you never did really know how your parents really felt, because they never did really talk about it, in front of you. But you saw what was happening on TV, and it was like, that is just scandalous and a shame, or either, the folks ought to be shaming themselves for treating folks like this, and stuff like that. And, but like I said, you never did really know how your parents or anybody felt. And so since you really didn't know how they felt, you really didn't form no opinion either. Because most of the time, we form opinions off of what we've been told. And so if you wasn't told anything, you really couldn't form an opinion.
Now, did you feel like you suffered, do you feel like you experienced a lot of prejudice and racism firsthand in your life, or racial hostility first? Like you talked about that there's always a lot of tension.
I mean, you face it all the time. I mean, like I said, it's not, it's more covered up now. But you face it all the time. I mean, even sometimes you face it every day. You face. I mean, I was late yesterday. I was at my second job at Kroger, and the little children, as I call them, was in there working with me. And so one of the managers came in, and when he left, she asked me. She said, "Miss Vance," I said, "Huh?" She said, "Well, how come he talked to you different than he talks to me?" And I said, well, what you mean by that? She said, he actually stand up and talk to you. He said, when we be trying to talk to him, he always be talking and walking. I said, well, number one is, I treat him like a person, and I expect for him to treat me like I'm a person. I said, so if I'm having conversation with you, then you need to talk to me like I'm a person. I said, I'm so straight up. I said, until, I mean, I talk to you looking at you. I don't talk to you looking over to the side or, this kind of thing. I talk to you Right. I said, so I expect for you to talk to me. I said, so the only thing I see is that I talk to him. I said, that's it. She said, well, they talk to you different. And I have gotten that a lot of places. Even when I was a work-study student here, the other work-study too, the students would tell me all the time that they treated me different. And I said, I don't understand how they treat me any different. I said, I'm a work-study student just like you. And they go like, no, Miss Nancy, they treat you different. And I said, well, maybe it's because I treat them different than you treat them, But I have always been very straight up too, and if you step on my toe, I'm going to tell you. But I might tell you in a nicer way.
I understand. Your husband would be more blunt.
Yeah, my husband would be more blunt, but I would just say, hey, come here. Did you realize that you stepped on my toe?
I understand. Well, I'm conscious of time, so are there any other things that you want to tell us, or you think that we missed or we didn't ask, or we're too dumb to ask? Are there any other things that you want to tell us that you think we should know about Starkville or about your life?
I mean, I've had a good life. I've just had to work for what I've got. I mean, I put in some applications for a couple of jobs, and I really felt like a couple of times I got passed over because of my race, but, who's to say? Who's to say? But other than that, I mean, I really think I've done fairly well, fairly well in spite of it all. I've had to work hard all my life, and I'm still working hard, and I'm still in debt, and I'm going to die in debt. So, I mean, you know, I have no intentions of paying off all these bills. And I said that, okay?
Better watch though if you live until 93 or
I
something.
mean, you know, really,
We're gonna
truly,
be following
you
you for a
know.
long time.
Oh, whatever, but I mean, you know, because I found out that if you want anything in life, you had to stretch yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know, you had to put yourself out there because, you know, I'm very strong in my faith, and you know, I just believe that if you put God first in anything that you do, then you will come out. Now, it's not saying that everything's going to be easy, because it's not.
Yeah.
You know, you got to work your way through it.
Yeah. So one last question. This is a question I borrowed from a colleague I used to work with. She always asks everyone at the end, what brings you joy in life? Like, you've talked a lot about working. Where do you, what's your sort of joy? What's your fun in life? What brings you enjoyment?
My fun thing. You know, I really enjoy church. Church is my real fun thing. I mean, you know, I sing on church choir, and I'm president of my mission in my church, and I'm president of the district mission. And I really enjoy that, going and traveling and interacting with older and younger women. You know, I really love the older women, you know, because if you sit up under them, you get a lot of wisdom or whatever. And so I love sitting up under them. And I mean, you know, I just really, I really think I really like work. Because I've been working 2 jobs for the past 7 years. And so, and even with my Kroger family and my MSU family, you know, I mean, you know, I miss them when I'm not there, you know. And then at the house, it's nobody but my husband and I. I mean, you know, and we talk, but, I mean, you know, he got his thing and I got my thing, you know. And so, it's just, you know, I just find joy in just being me.
That's good.
You know, just doing what I do.
That's good. And so what church do you go to?
I go to Bethel Missionary Baptist Church out Highway 82. I do. That's where my pastor is Reverend Lee Brand Jr.
That's great.
That is my pastor.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you're very active and very happy about your church. So
I
that's
am.
wonderful.
I love church. I love church. I just love serving God. I'm just so glad that He saved me from my sins. And I'm just happy about that.
That's good. Well, I think we're okay. So I'm going to turn off all the, you'll turn off that one.